Hello guys, so just a quick tip before you get into the tutorial. You can purchase the full code for this particular tutorial right here. This particular website is a convenient way to purchase this that supports the channel and is also fast, and it will send your code directly to your email. So go ahead and purchase from the link down below. I've also attached a video that shows you how you can integrate PayPal with M-Pesa to make this process a whole lot easier.
Hi guys, welcome back to the second part of the Daraja implementation using Node.js, that is an Express backend, and we shall be complementing it with a React frontend. So in the first part we got to initiate the SDK push and we got a pop-up on our user's phone, and from that we learned that for us to make the pop successful, or rather to make the SDK push success, we had to generate a token each and every time before sending the request to Safaricom. So for that we wrote a middleware function that was just having a get request to a certain URL that Safaricom provides for us, and the request returns back to us a token, and we pass the token and the function itself as a middleware function in the route that sends the SDK push. So from that route we get the token and we successfully send the SDK push. So in this video we are going to learn on how, whether or not the user pays on their mobile phone, we are going to track the payment and save it to our database. So for us to do this, we have to understand the logic. So as I say that in this video I'll be focusing more on how it works, the logic itself, rather than writing the actual code. So this is how the whole kind of logic works. When you successfully initiate the SDK push, whether the user pays or not, you get a successful response. So this is the response that we were getting when we initiated the SDK push. Let me just open up Postman. So this is the success that we were getting. So this one does not depend on whether the customer will pay or not. This one is successful only when the pop-up is sent to the user. So the only way we can now track the payment details, whether they have paid or not, there are now two ways that you can do that, and we shall be discussing both of them in this series. So the first thing that we are going to deal with is handling the callback, and the second thing that we can also do to track the transaction status is querying for the transaction status. There's an API call for querying for transaction status to tell us whether the user has paid, whether the user has not paid, and the reason why they actually have not paid. So we shall use that for the UI purpose, but for our backend here we are going to listen for any callback that will be coming. The moment the user complete the payment, whether they cancel or they pay, Safaricom will tell us. They will send us a request working similarly to how the webhook works. So what we are going to do in our code here, we are just going to write a function. Just create a route that listens. You have no control over that route, by the way. So you just have to create the route and just listen for anything that comes in. So that is what we are doing. Let's just create a route here and listen for anything that comes in, whether the transaction is successful or not. So let me open up VS Code now. I'm opening up my text editor, that is VS Code. So let me also just start this application again, npm run dev. So this is what we are doing. Remember, on the body that we were sending to Safaricom, there is the part where we have callback URL. So this will have your domain, the domain name here, of which the rules that you have to understand about this callback URL, Safaricom cannot send it to your localhost. So I'm going to show you whether when you are testing on localhost, what you can actually use to achieve the same purpose. You don't have to have a kind of a server online or hosted the website online. So we are going to generate that later, but for now understand that we shall have that the main domain that is there, then slash the path where we are listening to the callback. So in our web here, or in our code, we are going to create that one. So let me just write it just below this one. So that is a post route, app.post. Then you can now calling it here, it is very important. Now what I like to do for security purposes, just say const so we can just decide to put it here like callback URL, callback, like that. So when somebody hits /callback, for security purposes, when this person hits /callback, not unless you have whitelisted the domains coming from Safaricom, then whatever will happen down here might cause a very big harm to your application. So you can decide to do this on the, you can decide to save this name on the environment variables, or you can just decide to put it the way I've put it here. So when you save it there, you just give it a random number so that nobody can guess it. This one is very important. So I'll just call it /callback. So /callback, so this one will still take in a request and response, and let us do something with this one. So as I said, we have no control over this. It is just like that, not unless we want to mock our own callback. So Safaricom will just send here automatically when the user either cancels or pays on their SDK push. So let's just listen to that. So const response that we are waiting for, or the callback, let it say const callback data, this is equal to the request that Safaricom will be sending to us dot body. That is all. So we are pretty much done with that actually. So now let us come back to the body that we were sending in the initiating SDK push. So we are back here. So the domain will come from here. So if it is abcd.com from here, or abcd.co.ke, then now we are giving it is now /callback. So if you will be having controllers somewhere, if you will be having some kind of nested routes, you will have to write here the exact route to that function, the exact route to that function that is here. So let me just save this one. So as I said earlier, Safaricom cannot send this one cannot send it back to us to localhost. So we cannot just write here localhost port 8000 then /callback. This one won't work. This one won't work. So it's unless you have a live URL. So you host this somewhere else, then get the live. Then it will be a matter of testing, posting again, testing, deploying again, testing, deploying. So for that, on your local host, you can still use a service called Ngrok. So you can search for Ngrok. I think it's ngrok.io or something like that. So just search Ngrok on your Google. Just follow the prompts there. They will guide you on how you can install that one. So after successfully installing Ngrok, so you will open up your command line and you'll type this command Ngrok. You'll actually find this one on their documentation. So Ngrok http, then the port in which your app is running. So for my case is port 8000. So when you hit enter, it will open up a live tunnel and give you a live link in which it's actually secured HTTPS. So let me just copy this one, control copy, then come back to my application and I will paste it here up to here. Nice. So that is it. So this will be the part of your live URL. So for me I'm using Ngrok, then / this route that you defined here, so /callback. So that is pretty much. You have already given Safaricom the URL in which when the user pays or does anything to do with that pop-up, they will tell you what has happened here. So we are just consoling.log this one. So let us try a transaction and see whether we are going to receive anything in your console. So let me just console.log here, console.log callback data. So opening up Postman, let me send the request again. I've received the pop-up on my phone, so let me cancel this, cancel it. So let us see if we were doing everything right. Nice. So this is what Safaricom sends us. It sends us the body, the merchant request ID, the result code that is here, and the description, what has happened, the request cancelled by user. Let me try another one and see. So let me just initiate another one, the last one. So when I initiate this one and I will input the wrong pin, then send. So when I come back here, let us see what we are receiving. So we are receiving, Safaricom is telling us that this is what has happened. The result code is this one, and the description is that the initiator information is invalid. Now for the last time, let me now try a successful payment and see what body Safaricom will send us. So where is this? I need to change the body. So here 10 bob, 1 bob actually will do. So send this one, and I will successfully enter my PIN number. Nice. So let's see, I've already paid. So Safaricom will send us something here. Are you seeing what we are receiving? So when the transaction is not successful, we are not receiving the callback metadata. But the moment you make a successful transaction, we are going to receive the callback metadata, of which this metadata will be including or will be having the object that gives us whatever transaction details that we are going to need to save to our database. So the first thing that you're going to do before you even save, check. So if there is no callback metadata, of which callback metadata is supposed to be this callback data, that is the body again, this that we are receiving here, body again, then dot callback metadata, so dot body, like that. So if there is no, let me copy this one, if there is no callback metadata dot body dot callback metadata, callback, let me just copy this one so that I don't have any spelling errors. Copy this, paste it here. If there is no that, then what are we going to do? We're just going to console.log this one, copy, and give it here, and we just tell Safaricom that we have received this res.json. Let's just tell them okay. So that is all. You might think, why am I sending back Safaricom this one? But remember, Safaricom will check whether you have received it. So if you doesn't receive this, it will assume that you have not received it, and it will send it twice. You'll have an instance whereby you have transactions duplicating in your database. So just for your security reasons and to avoid some issues, just send them back the JSON, just anything, and send them back just anything. So let's try this one. So if it is successful, now if you pay successful, you should receive this. So I'm going to console.log this callback metadata, control copy this, let me paste it here, and that is pretty much okay. So this is what is happening. So whether or not the user pays, you're going to receive the data from Safaricom. So the data will be having body, and when the user has successfully paid, it will also have callback metadata. So if the user does not pay, we are going to receive a body still, but it will not be having this. So we are checking for that. If there is no this, then we're just ending it from here. So it's an if function, so you can do anything. You can just return, no issues. Let me just return this. So just end it from there. But if you find that there's callback metadata, now just let us console it log here before we do anything about it. Let me try now a payment. One I'm going to cancel and the other one I'm going to pay. So the first one, let me cancel this one. Cancelled. So when I cancel that, let's see what I'm receiving in my console. Nice. So I'm receiving the STK callback that is telling me request cancelled by user. So now when I successfully pay, so let me now try a successful payment. Let me try a successful payment here. So postman, so send this one. The STK push has been sent. So let me put the actual pin. So that is it. I've already paid for the transaction. Now let's see what I'm receiving here. So I'm receiving the callback metadata. Where is this? So it is telling me that the request is processed successful. So this is supposed to be JSON issues. Copy this, so it is dot that, then dot callback metadata. So let me try another one very quickly here. Send one bob. So if you're using Sandbox, don't worry about that one. Your money will be refunded back probably after 24 hours. So with me, I'm just using a live pay bill and it's mine, so the money is still coming to me. So the transaction was timed out because it was very close to the other one. Let me try it again. So it should be successful. Let me see what I'm receiving on the console. Why am I receiving the same thing? What am I missing here? So if there is no, still here, it is still finding a false because of this thing. Paste it here. Dot. Nice. So this now should give us the real results. So let's send the last one. Send, push send to my phone, entering the real pin. Boom, done. Let's see what we are receiving in our console. That is it. Rule limit. Oh, sorry, it was close to the other one. So Safaricom has a tendency of cancelling transactions when the other one is yet to be completed. So it's like they met on the way. So let me just try this one. Probably the time. Yeah, successful, paid. Let's see what we are receiving. Nice. So this is our data. The callback metadata gives us an array of amount. So key value amount here 1, the transaction payment ID, this is here, the receipt, that is Mpesa receipt number, it is here. Then the balance, this one will always give you nothing, just a key. Then the date and the person that is paying. So we already have that. So what is remaining is just saving it to our database. So that is the next thing that we are going to do. But you have understood the logic that Safaricom sends you a request, actually not a response, a request on every transaction, whether successfully paid or not. When it is not paid, you won't receive the callback metadata. When it is paid, you are going to receive the callback metadata. So in the next part of this video, we are going to see on a way in which we are going to save this into our database. So now guys, since I'm using Node.js, I'm going to use a MongoDB database to complete the man stack actually. So I'm going to use Mongoose as an ORM to help me connect to the MongoDB database. So for that, you will need to install MongoDB. For me, I have already done that. So you can see here in my dependencies, I have Mongoose installed. So you're going to run npm install Mongoose. Then after that, you're going to connect to your MongoDB database. So let me just do that, connecting this one. So I'm going to head over to Mongoose documentation. Mongoose, let me just make this one a bit larger for you guys to see. So mongoose.js, I'm going to open up this. Nice. So there's something that I need from here. So one, you need to require mongoose because you've already installed it as a dependency. Then next you're going to connect, and connecting is simple as it is. So here we have a mongoose.connect method that takes in a URL. That is all actually. So let me just copy this one, come back to my app, to my code, and paste it here. So that is it. So let me just remove this one and put it up there so that it becomes loopable neat, just below requiring Axios. Nice. Let me just save this. So instead of me putting the URL directly here, I'm going to take it from my environment variables, just the exact URL. So you just be localhost 27017 / give it a name, any name. So mine will be like YouTube, like that. So this one are just, we're going to keep it on the environment variables. So now here I'm just going to call it like process.env I'm going to call it mongo_url. So that is it. So let me just listen whether it is successful. Then so if it is successful, then we need to console.log database connected successfully. Nice. And we shall also catch any errors if they are there. So .catch in case there is an error. We are also going to console it, console.log error. We're going to console.log error.message. That is pretty much. So database connected successfully after I saved, you see here. So we have successfully connected to our MongoDB database. So the next thing that will be coming up is for us to save the transaction that we are receiving in the callback URL. So our focus will now go back to this callback here. After receiving the callback metadata, we need to store those details to our database. So that is what we are going to do now. So before we work on the logic of saving our transaction to the database, remember we are using MongoDB, so we'll need to create a schema for that. So let me just create a folder, call it models. Nice. So inside here I'm going to create a new file and I'm going to call it payment model.js. So inside this one I'm going to require mongoose first. Const mongoose is equal to require mongoose. So I'm going to do this very quickly, so then I will explain it later. So const So I'm done with my model. So what I've just done here is I've required mongoose, I've initialized a mongoose schema, I've created a new payment schema of which it will be taking the number, the transaction ID and the amount. I've also set the timestamp to be true so that it gives me the created at and updated at objects. Then now here I have now created the model that takes in the name plus the schema that is going to handle that model. Then I'm just exporting it so that I can call it here in the index.js. So in my index.js I'm just going to require that payment. So let me just take it in here. Const payment should be equal to require, so dot slash models slash payment model.js. So that is nice. So we are pretty much done with setting up our database, our model, and our schema. So before we start working on the logic on saving the transaction to the database, let's make sure now we are having everything that we are needing. So remember, our payment model wants us to save the number, the transaction ID, and the amount, of which these ones will be coming from Safaricom. So let's just make sure that we are having all those things. So when you make a transaction here, a successful transaction, it will give us the callback metadata. So with this one, we need the const, we need a phone number, we need the phone number here, we need the phone number, then we also need the amount, and we also need transaction ID. Transaction ID. That is what we are going to need. That is what you are going to need here. So let me now currently, let me just comment these ones out, then I start it here. So let us initiate another payment so that we have a sample of whatever we are going to get from Safaricom. So let me just send this one, and I enter my PIN number after receiving the push. Yes, I've just received it. So enter my PIN number, and there we go. Let's see what kind of data we are receiving this side. Nice. So currently we have an item, that is an object that we have here. So the object, so it is callback metadata dot item, then item is an array. So for us to get the phone, so for example the amount, let's start the amount. So copy this one. So the amount here, so the amount will be whatever we are having there, dot item, then it's an array, so it's item index of this is index 0, the amount is index 0, the first object that is there, then dot the value that we have here, dot value. So what is wrong with this? Dot value. So that is how we get the amount, and we are going to do the same thing with the phone and the transaction ID. Copy this one. So with the phone, paste here, and the index will change. So the phone is in index number, so amount is index 0, the phone number is index, that is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, so index 4, the last one. Nice. Then lastly, let us do the same to the transaction ID. Copy this one. So the transaction ID is in index, so if phone is, so this one will be in index 3, the third index. So here now let us console.log that one. So console.log an object that has the phone, it has the amount, and it also has the transaction ID. Transaction ID. So let me just save this, let me just comment this one, save it again. Let us try another transaction, send the STK push, receiving the pop-up on my phone, entering the PIN number, voila, the successful payment. So let's see what we are receiving on the console. Nice. So we have the phone number here, we have the transaction here, and we also have oh, I got the date instead of, let me just read this one again. I messed up the index. So the receipt actually is index 1, so this is 1, 2, so it is index 1. The transaction ID, that is index 1. Nice. So we have everything that we need. So what we have to do right now is just is just save the transaction to the database. That is all that is remaining. We have everything that we need from Safaricom. The callback is coming to us real time, without errors, without delays. So now let us work on the logic of saving this transaction to the database. So we already know that we are receiving everything. So saving this one to a MongoDB database using Mongoose, actually it's actually very simple. All we have to do is just initialize the model again, actually create kind of a sample of the model. So just call it payment. So payment will be equal to new, let me just confirm whether I imported this one. Yeah, here we have it. So new payment. So let me just copy this. New payment. It's a new payment. That is pretty much. So what we're going to do is payment dot number should be equal to, so the payment dot number should be equal to the font that we have up there. Nice. So let me just duplicate this one, copy, paste. So the second one is supposed to be font dot amount, that is supposed to be equal to amount, and the last one is supposed to be font dot transaction ID, So let me just take it from here and see whatever it was. So transaction ID, here it is. Copy this one, font dot transaction ID, paste it here. It's supposed to be the transaction ID that is up there. Transaction ID, supposed to be trans ID. Nice. So there we go, we already have those things. So what we are doing here is payment dot save. So that is all. So let's try to see when it's successful. So in successful, it's going to give us a data, that is a payment. Then console.log data, the data that we are receiving here. So let us catch any errors. Catch. So if there is any error here, we are going also to console.log the error.message. That is it. What error is here? Then data does this one, console.log data, it closes. So yeah, we are okay with that one. So we have already saved the transaction to database just like that. So let's try now a payment and let's see whether we are going to get that one on our console. But for that, let me just give a body here. Let me just give a message. So instead of just taking in data, let me just take in an object that will have a message saved successfully. Then it will also take in the data. So that is pretty much done. So back to Postman, sending the request. Let me wait for it. It has already arrived. Entering my PIN. There we go. Let us see what we are receiving on our console. Nice. Where is it? Where is this one? Yeah, saved successfully, and the object ID is this one here, and we have the phone number, the amount, and the transaction ID. So we are done. We have already saved the transaction to the database, and that is pretty much how we can get the transaction, whether it was completed or it was failed by the user. So we are almost done with the backend. We are actually done with the backend. So in the next video, we are now going to touch on the front end, and here we are going to deal with React. So React.js, that is just a JavaScript library that will be helping us come up with a very quick interactivity between the user and our website. So, and again, if you face any kind of issue with the implementation of Daraja, right from obtaining the access token, initiating the SDK push, and also saving your transaction to the database, getting your callback, you can just hook me up. I will leave my contacts down there, but you can also find me on my portfolio. I will also leave the link to the portfolio down there on the description, so you can just check out some of the projects that I have done with the Daraja implementation, obviously with Node.js, and some of them I've done them with PHP also, but my main focus actually is on Node.js implementation using a React frontend. So let's just interact with each other. We can just give me a call, we can have a live session of tackling some of the issues that you guys have been facing with M-Pesa implementation from with Node.js, that is. So we're pretty much with that. In the next video, let us meet with React.js. So gear up for React. With that said, let's meet in our next video.